Hello, Camden Coblentz here. So with winter still around, I decided to talk about another movie that takes place during the winter. That is the 2015 Best Picture nominee, The Revenant. Now, before I begin, I will clarify that I am well aware that this movie takes elements of an actual event, but much of the movie was made up for dramatic purposes. With it being advertised as being inspired by true events, I find that very accurate to how much of it actually happened and how much of it is fiction. With that out of the way, let's begin. The movie follows Hugh Glass, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who is in a group of fur trappers. His story is not a happy one, as his home in a native village was attacked by those bent on claiming their land, destroying his family's home and killing his native wife, among others. All that's left to him is their son, Hawk, and the two of them share a touching bond. Glass and the rest of their pack are under threat from other Indians, as this was a time of tension between Americans and natives. While hunting alone one day, Glass comes across some bear cubs and soon gets brutally attacked by their mother as protection. Eventually, Glass kills the bear, but is left barely still alive. The other men find him and do their best to keep him alive. With Glass being too weak to move, they have to carry him on a stretcher as they continue moving. Eventually, they come to a hill, but are unable to get Glass over it. One of the men, John Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy, suggests to just kill Glass and put him out of his misery, especially since he wouldn't be a burden on them. Their leader, Andrew Henry, refuses and offers a payment to anyone who stays with Glass. Hawk and Jim Bridger volunteer, though being the two youngest members, they need another member to help them survive. Fitzgerald agrees to do so after Henry increases the payment. Unfortunately, Glass is still weak and unable to speak. Fitzgerald decides to finish him off once he blinks. As hard as he tries against it, Glass eventually closes his eyes while Fitzgerald starts smothering him. Hawk tries to stop him, but Fitzgerald overtakes him and stabs him. He then finds Bridger and plays innocent, pretending to not know where Hawk is. He urges Bridger to come with him, claiming to have seen Indians pursuing them. Fitzgerald then puts Glass in a large hole he dug and partially buries him. Bridger reluctantly follows Fitzgerald, ashamed to leave Glass behind. Eventually, Glass has enough strength to pull himself out of his planned grave. He soon finds the dead body of his son. He becomes determined to make his way back to their outpost and kill Fitzgerald for murdering Hawk and leaving himself for dead. I will say that his determination to survive is quite fascinating. It proves to be difficult to accomplish, but much of his perseverance comes down to the fact that he refuses to give up and die. Eventually, he comes across a native from the tribe he and his family was part of. He approaches cautiously and gestures for food. The native allows it and welcomes his company. Soon the spiritual connection arrives. Glass tells the man about how his wife and son were killed and he was left for dead. The native responds that his family was also killed. Though he is devastated by his own loss, he is not seeking revenge, as he says that vengeance is in the Creator's hands, clearly referring to God. I really appreciated hearing that in a secular film, and I'll explain why in a bit. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald and Bridger rejoin their group at the outpost. Fitzgerald lies about Hawk's death and also says that they couldn't save Glass. He collects his payment, but Bridger feels guilty for leaving Glass, as he discovered the truth earlier, and refuses his own bonus payment. One morning, Glass awakens to find the native gone. He continues his difficult and dangerous journey, and after facing many hardships, he finally returns to the outpost. He defends Bridger, as he was forced to follow Fitzgerald's orders. The men find out that Fitzgerald fled, but not before emptying their safe. After hearing where he is heading, Glass is determined to follow him, but the men tell him to stay and continue recovering. But Glass no longer fears death after all he'd been through. Henry accompanies him, and the two set off. Once they see Fitzgerald, they split up to take him down. Henry gets there first, but Fitzgerald kills him. Glass then outsmarts Fitzgerald, and the two of them fight. Though they both wound each other, Glass eventually overtakes Fitzgerald. Seeing that he is about to be finished off, Fitzgerald sees that he traveled all that way just to get revenge. He tells him to enjoy it, because nothing will bring his boy back. Suddenly, Glass notices a group of Indians from a distance. He looks at them, then whispers to himself in the language of the natives of his family, "Vengeance is in God's hands, not mine." Then he sends Fitzgerald down the river nearby, sending him towards the tribe, who unsurprisingly kill him. This scene really stood out to me with what it symbolized. One could argue that Glass still got revenge even though he wasn't the one who killed Fitzgerald, But this moment conveys an essential moment of truth. Even if revenge can be something that builds up in us, we as humans don't have the right to take a life for revenge, because God will handle it on that person's judgment. Because Fitzgerald was clearly evil, his death by the Indians symbolized his judgment that would occur when he would stand before God. But he wasn't condemned to hell just because of his evil actions. It was his separation from God that decided his fate. You see, our choices matter that much. All of us were born with a sinful nature, with the devil aiming to destroy us. But God sent his Son, Jesus, to provide the one way out, and we can be saved from darkness by repenting and surrendering to God. We cannot pay the price of our wrongdoings, so it's only in the free gift of Christ's sacrifice that we can be saved. God is love and wants us to be set free, but he is also just if we choose to reject him and Jesus' sacrifice. Also, hell is not going to be ruled by Satan. It is his place of torment, where his evil and demons will suffer. Unfortunately, he aims to deceive and keep as many as he can away from God's mercy. So as long as you're still alive, the choice to accept the free gift of salvation is within your grasp. After Fitzgerald's death, the movie ends on a thoughtful and somewhat ambiguous note, finishing the story well. So what do I think of this movie? Well, the story was engaging, and as you probably figured, it left me thinking. One thing I appreciated is that while the movie has some brutal moments, it also has calm moments. There's a lot of quiet scenes in this movie, often simply just taking in the atmosphere shown through the film's gorgeous cinematography. I could see this not working for some people, as it could be considered slow and boring, especially if someone wanted more action, but I was into it throughout. What really stands out are the performances by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy as the protagonist and antagonist, and Leo definitely earned that Oscar win. The spiritual ending was unexpected for this kind of film and a real plus, even though it is unknown if any of the characters had true faith in God. The movie is certainly not for everyone, but it had enough standouts that made it worth seeing for myself. In closing, I want to remind you that you can still accept that Jesus died for all the sins of humankind, repent and turn to God, and believe in and trust him. Thank you for taking the time here. I encourage you to subscribe, as there will be more videos like this in the future. I know I've been called to minister here, and I will continue to follow God's call for my life.